These were the coolest Les Pauls I found on Facebook. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I like to browse various Facebook groups because sometimes really interesting things get posted. We'll start with Tom's 1970 Gibson Les Paul Deluxe that he called a tone monster. And if it sounds like it looks, I would have to agree. Holy cow, that thing is insane. I'm not entirely sure the story behind this one because if it truly was a 1970, that means we've had some modifications done here. Because the first thing that jumps out at me is the Nashville style bridge. That wasn't introduced until the earliest of about 1975 when Gibson Nashville opens, hence where the name comes from. Now that could have just been an aftermarket modification, but also in this era, you typically don't find really crazy flame tops like that. Now there are some really nice exotic pieces out there like my 1974 Natural Les Paul Custom with the craziest top that you can't believe came from 1974, but this one is almost completely book matched, like they just completely split it in half. So that makes me think that this might have been redone, but they did a fantastic job. But at the same time, it almost looks like it's a flat top, like it doesn't have the regular Les Paul carve. So it reminds me of the model called the Gibson XR2. It actually utilized mini humbuckers very similar to this, although they were more akin to a Firebird style pickup, and they had a mini toggle switch on it. And honestly, the finish on this one's really not that different from the one I documented. But Tom says he's owned it since 1978, but that doesn't mean it wasn't reworked before his time there. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of other photos to go off of, but it was beautiful. It needed to be shared with the world, whatever it is. But next up, you learn about some interesting models by watching these groups. Yoshinobu Saida schooled me on a limited run in 1994 of a Les Paul Studio Lite. Japan market exclusive, they made apparently 50 of these. So the early Studio Lites, sometimes you do find these really strange 3-piece flame maple tops, but what makes this one so cool is the fact that it's like this trans black finish. Really reminds me of the Joe Perry Studio models, for this technically is before that. But it's got the black hardware, uncovered black pickups. That might be a modification, but this is the era where you get the ebony fretboard. That thing is just looking sweet. Another model I recently learned about is there was a run of Les Paul Classics around 2007 that came stock with EMG pickups and black binding, and oh my goodness, I need to review this model. It looks so good, the white and black, the ebony board. So if anybody's selling one of these, I would definitely be interested in grabbing it to document. Next, Xander posted a story about how he ordered a Relic 54 Les Paul from Sweetwater and loved the sound, but he hated the Relic look. And when he found out how long it was going to take to get what he actually wanted, he decided, why don't I just do this custom order with some other cool specs to make the wait worth it? So let's see if it was worth the wait for him. Holy cow, yeah, he went crazy. I'm surprised Gibson did everything. So first off, 54 Les Paul in the sense that he was looking for a custom. You know, the Alnico 5 staple pickup. Those things are beautiful. They're kind of hard to find on the used market, and they're just expensive when they do come up. He didn't really change too much here. He didn't go for like double and or triple staples or anything crazy, but everything else was crazy. Look at our inlays. He decided to go for Super 400s instead of blocks, and no longer mother of pearl. This is abalone. So that's really crazy and in your face. That's a really clean ebony board, but I am shocked Gibson did abalone flighted F-hole logo. You found that on the RD Artist back in the 70s, and he even went for the specced out 70s like logo. Flabbergasted Gibson did that for him because they don't use that inlay too often. He probably had to pay a pretty premium for that, but our craziness does not even end here. The back is regular black. Can you believe it? No, I'm just kidding. The neck was left natural and they gave it a like design. That's just such a beautifully weird, too out there for most people, I think, because whenever you talk to somebody at the Gibson custom shop and you think you've come up with this really cool, unique idea, they go, trust me, my friend, we have produced some really crazy stuff over the years. It's just a lot of it doesn't come to the light of the public. So Xander, fantastic job at making something entirely yours. I'm sure that's gonna be a one-off. Along the lines of cool 54 customs, somebody decided to do what looks like a Koa top version 1. Now this photo was posted by Gibson Custom Shop's Instagram at one point in time, but it's got the gold hardware, no pick guard, so besides our cool exotic body woods, perhaps nothing special, but it's possible that they played with other stuff. That's the problem with these old Gibson custom photos. Usually you only get one shot, so the rest of the details are shrouded in mystery. Speaking of mystery, look at this. I'm not entirely convinced that this photo is not edited, but I've wanted to custom order something like this for a long time. Just a straight up green burst that has the perfect teardrop shape, but everything is so ridiculously saturated in this photo. There's gotta have been some touch-ups to make that pop a little bit more, or this started as a silver burst and has been edited to look like this. Because let's be real here, it's got gold hardware, and most silver burst and other sparkly finishes don't get the gold, so it might be real, but sometimes it's hard to tell good Photoshop jobs from real custom orders. Because you can definitely see some metallic flake in the paint, but it could just be a sparkle green burst. That looks really awesome. Would love to see it back, sides, neck, all that. That is a really cool custom order, if that's what it actually was. If green is your style, there was also a very nice quilty green one. Just slap a dragon on that fretboard and you've got a green dragon, like my Dragon Les Paul that you can check out in this episode. But if green's not your style, how about a red swirly one? I'm not quite too sure about this one. It looks like some sort of a custom shop Les Paul standard. It's got the ABR1 bridge, so technically could be a reissue just with a weird caramelized finish. I'm not exactly sure what they were going for here, but it's unique. It's an art piece. It stands out and it is beautiful. This next one is a little bit of a mystery. Matthew posted it here hoping to get some more information. So I would agree with what some people are saying over here. It looks like some sort of a Steve Clark inspired thing. I'm betting this thing has been modified. I mean, it's got black binding, it's a Panther pink, it's got a Kaler. It almost looks like 3 pickups, but that might just be a decal. Gibson did have a finish like this in the mid 80s. I believe it's called Panther Pink or something similar to that. And you typically only found it on this 85 SG Special 400. It's got the weird single coils and the humbucker with the Kaler Flyer tremolo system. But since it exists on this, you technically could find it on a Les Paul as a custom order. It's like there's always hope. This looks a little bit more pink than that, but you never know. I think best case scenario, this could be a custom shop edition studio standard in Panther Pink that had custom black binding, because you've got the dot inlays and perhaps black binding, but it looks like a full body Les Paul to me. I doubt it. It's probably just a modified Les Paul standard that somebody refinished in the 80s, put the Kaler on, maybe even sculpted the heel down a little bit back there. It's pretty cool, whatever it is, but it's not a model I'm personally familiar with. Next up, Michael was sharing his custom shop Ultima. I've seen a lot of Ultimas in my day, and generally I'm not all that impressed by them. They're just really gaudy out there, but this one was a little bit more special. I like that really dark trans black finish. It still has flame and figuring within it, and you've got your abalone trim, gold hardware. It's fancy, don't get me wrong, but then they threw this giant flame fretboard on it. But the whole color scheme, black and white, with a little bit of abalone thrown in there with some mother of pearl, it works. It's actually an earlier version one, probably late 90s, early 2000s, since it's got the Gibson custom shop in that style of banner. Whereas most Ultimas, they usually end up looking like this. They'll have like some weird tailpiece and the harp lady, which is cool in a different way, but this just gets a little bit too fancy for my personal tastes. Whereas this is still modern and looks like you could still play this on stage, but you better have the chops to back it up. And to round out our episode, there were a few cool finds on Reverb lately. Over in Italy, there's a beautiful Derek Truck Signature SG. So normally they look like this. I remember when these things were brand new being blown out at stores for as cheap as $1,100. In fact, I still have Sweetwater receipts showing me buying like 4 of them at once. And I've seen a few nice ones over the years, but this is just such a beautiful example. It's well worth paying whatever the market wants. Look at the figuring in that body. That's not a spec. They're not supposed to look like this. That's just, you happen to get lucky with the wood grain lottery on this one. But I've always had a soft spot for these Derek Truck SGs because there's no pickguard over here that makes them look unique. But you also got the Vibrola tailpiece back when Gibson didn't throw that on everything, but you didn't actually have to worry about the tuning instability of those machines. It was just the faceplate of it screwed onto the top. All you had to put up with was their really freaky pointy headstocks that Gibson was doing back then on the SGs, for their reissue ones anyway. But you flip it over to the back and the fun does not end. It's the same wood as we saw, so I was expecting it on the back of the body, but more extreme. It's not crazily figured here, but you can tell that there's maybe a little bit in our neck right here, but that is a great example of a 2014 version. In fact, it's been a while since we've documented one of these. Over in Belgium, there was a nice L5S. I always like looking at these guitars. I always like looking for the nice 2-piece top versions, but this one, the flame figuring just seems slanted. Like normally it's straight across. Very nice looking, but this one is like slightly diagonal. And it's not like a one-piece top, so they had to have specifically chose these two pieces to go together. And it's such a cherry clown burst on it, unfortunately. But that's just kind of how it is. And honestly, this guitar being in the case makes it look worse than it is because its interior is also a similar color. But if you flip it over to the back, you can see it's also two pieces and you can see the full body shape going on. But pop it out of the case, and yeah, it's just a really nice clean example if you're looking for a good two-piece top version. They're asking $9,000. These things range usually from $5,000 to $10,000, so I mean, a nice two-piece top example will go for more money. Here's another one in the UK by Coda Music. This is their leading photo. It's kind of like a smoky gray over the natural mahogany vibes. That's kind of cool. But then when you flip it over to the top, you got a green top. Pretty nice flame. But that smoky back and sides is a really interesting choice. I'm almost curious, is that a satin finish on this model? I think it might be. That's the way it looks in these photos. There's quite a premium on that one though at $6,800. And unfortunately, they do not dive into any of the details as far as what style finish it is. And to round out tonight's episode, I don't even really want to tell you guys about this one because I'm low-key interested in it. It's the Gary Clark Jr. Signature SG. It really wasn't that long ago when these things came out, but they made it in these yellow finish and the red one, and the whole lore behind this is the yellow finish that they used was not very good. It developed finish checking prematurely. So if you can find a yellow one that hadn't finish checked, you could sell it for like a double premium because it was a rare collector's item. Now Diablo Guitars happened to have found a prototype. I'm not sure who they got it from, but it's actually stamped a prototype. It's a unique SG model. I'm not that big of a fan of it because it's not real P90 pickups, it's P90S, and I just don't think they sound as good. But it was unique, and Gary was actually supposed to get more of these. Like, he's been seen with a Flying V that was really cool. I still hope one day we get that signature release because we don't have enough limited edition Vs out there. But seeing this prototype, even though it's not any different from the production run as far as what I can tell, I thought that was incredibly fascinating. But they're only asking $3,500. I thought that was very fair. And he was even sending out private offers at $3,150. So go ahead, go snap that up. I talked about it, you might as well. All right, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.